Paterson Price for Friday, April 11th, 2025, coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee, here at the Historic Wall Center. And this program, a presentation of Bet365. Matt Sakaris alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, who hobnobs with the stars.
And pseudo-stars.
And conducting things.
If you can think of an obscure celebrity, he's had a beer with that guy.
You talking about Basketball Phil?
Very good. Yes. Sat with Lydia and Burnaby, Basketball Phil. Shout out Ryan, Teddy, people who joined our table last night at Greta. No. Blake just out of the blue today pulls out what was that improv show again?
I was watching a clip. It was a golf bit on Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I was trying to think about the title of the show. I said, the one with Colin Mockery, and Mike comes up with the name of it. Yeah. Had some beers with that guy once back in the day. Of course you did.
In Banff, of all places.
Of course you did.
Mm-hmm. Who doesn't drink in Banff?
With Colin Mockery.
Honestly, who doesn't need to drink the second you cross the line into Alberta?
It's true.
Surrey Mitsubishi poll question today. And this is a fun weekend, fun Friday poll question.
We like to have fun here on the show.
We ask a lot of serious questions about, the fate of the Vancouver Canucks, the future of players, and all of that. This one is pure joy. Like a
fan feedback.
Candy store. Someone gave you a Canucks jersey with Paterson on the back. What number are you putting on it? 25 for Elias. Certainly made some fans last night.
Mm-hmm.
29 Marcus.
The incumbent Pettersson.
Or number 40, Elias. I know you're not a church. I voted Marcus Pettersson just because he's getting crushed here, and I felt bad for the
pity votes for Marcus.
Yeah.
Wow.
What about you?
I mean, you also have to view it as an investment. Is the number 40 going to exist on July 2nd? Is Elias going to exist 18 months from now? I mean, yeah, great few weeks here. Great few weeks, showing a lot of promise. There's a lot of guys that have had great first 25 games in the National Hockey League, only to not be full-time National Hockey Leaguers. So a lot of question marks there. I'm going to gamble on 40 still. Still going to gamble on 40. For longevity's sake. But I don't begrudge anybody for voting 25, that's for sure.
Well, a big night of goals in Denver, 4 of them. And so, how about saving $2,000 on a new or pre-owned vehicle at Surrey Mitsubishi? That's right, $500 per goal, capped maximum 5 goals. Get yourself to the dealership, mention Sakaris Price, and walk away with $2,000 off a new or pre-owned vehicle. Score more, save more. More value, more savings. Bring them any offer. Surrey Mitsubishi will beat it. Visit 13820 104th Avenue. Let's get to our top story. It is brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Summer surveillance. The Canucks want Elias Pettersson to stay in Vancouver. Monitor his off-season training. General Manager Patrick Alvin telling Ian McIntyre that summer training will be a big part of the exit meeting with number 40. Quote, "We have the right resources here to help him. Listen, he has the ability to dictate the future, and I'm sure he wants to come back to his normal form and wants to continue to grow and get better. So we have absolutely the commitment and resources here to help him do that." Blake Price, is this a test, the final exam? If he says no, is he on the trade block? They can't force him to be here
they cannot.
During the offseason. So this is a suggestion, not an order. It speaks volumes, but answer me the test question.
He could come back to them and say, listen, I'm not going to stay here, but here's what I'm doing. I'm going to do this. I've hired so-and-so. This is what I'm going to do. So
or he could commit to partial time here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple of different ways that also would placate the Vancouver Canucks. But I think here's where I will go to. In the exit meeting, they're going to gauge how organized he is and how prepared he is to have big summer. And if they don't love what they hear, I think that will inform their opinion on what to do with him before July 1st.
I think it's absolutely a test. I think they're testing his dedication, his commitment, his willingness to work with the organization, which has been a big problem with Elias. Loner, unreachable, doesn't want to take advantage of the help that's around him, including his own countrymen, Henrik and Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
The Canucks were not thrilled with his summer last year, to say the least. He came back to camp saying he was hampered by the knee tendonitis, couldn't perform all the exercises he would normally do, but found workarounds. So he left Vancouver talking about knee tendonitis. He arrived in Vancouver talking about knee tendonitis. Conditioning was an issue, according to Jim Rutherford in that interview with the Globe and Mail, where he said, quote, he'll get that at some point. But the strength and the skating explosion have not improved. In fact, they've regressed. And merely this suggestion publicly, Blake, what does it say about Elias's commitment and the club's trust that he works hard out of view that this would be necessary? All great athletes will tell you, you just see the fruit of the labor. You don't see the labor. When there's no cameras and microphones and spectators around, that's where the work gets done.
Yeah.
And star players and people who reach the ultimate heights of their profession in athletics, they tend to own the process. They want to do all the extra work because they want to be the best they can be, not because somebody instructs them to do the extra work or suggests that they do the extra work. So I think this is a massive test for Elias. I think it's as simple as, you say you want to be in Vancouver, then prove it. Stay here this summer, work with our people. We've got a blueprint for how to get the best out of you. We would love it if you aligned with
I don't think it's about a commitment to Vancouver. I think it's about a commitment to the craft.
Well,
like
I say Vancouver, I mean the Canucks and the.
Yeah, but I want to hear from, if I'm them, I assume there's a commitment to Vancouver. You got a long-term contract that's just started. I assume that guy wants to be there. What I don't assume is that he's prepared to put in the hard work to be a top-line player in the National Hockey League.
I think Elias, for the most part, has gotten by with natural talent and gifts. And I don't think that's the case anymore. And I think they have been trying for an awfully long time here to get him to realize that.
Yeah.
And I think they're getting to the end of the line with that. And I don't blame them. And as I said to you last week when we had the good debate, does either Rick Tocchet or Elias Pettersson have to go? 9 times out of 10, I'm picking the player because coaches are more replaceable. But you've moved JT Miller out because of this player. The coach may want to move out in part because of this player. And if he can't commit to being here in Vancouver and doing what is asked of him for an organization paying him $11.6 million per year, when you sign huge contract extensions like that, they need to be starting blocks, not finish lines. And the worst thing that could happen to the Vancouver Canucks is that Elias Pettersson's contract turns into an anchor, and we've seen those before here in town. So I think they are trying to guard against the nuclear option here of Elias coming back to camp next year after not having a great summer, completely out of view, and the struggles continuing. because I do think there is still trade value in the player. I'm not sure that would be the case if he had a poor first half next year.
Well, the fact that they have played amongst their best stretches of hockey in the last 14 games, of which he played a few of those, but at 8-4-2 here in the last 14 games, a large section of that, the majority of those games, played without Elias Pettersson. And there was games of, early on in that swath, they were games of import. They were not playing out the string. And the fact they scored goals, never mind the results even, the fact that they scored goals, which is part of his mandate. Not that they just trade him away for nothing and think, oh, we're going to be good enough. But it does guide their hand a little bit as to how desperate they need to feel, how much leverage they give him. It's been informative these last few weeks.
Yep. The Canucks have averaged, Mike put this bird in my ear the other day. I haven't gone back and done the missing games from earlier in the season for Elias, but he's missed the last 9. The Canucks are averaging 3.78 goals per game in that span.
Yeah, just fine. And again, there's games of import in there. They're desperation games.
Yep.
And they were able to find offense.
Yep.
With
scoring goals was not the problem we thought it would be in the late playoff push.
And this is with Pius Suter, and all due respect,
as
your
number.
top line center.
Yep. It's without Hedel. It's without Höglander for a number of those games.
Yeah.
It's without Myers for the last few games.
Yeah, it's been interesting.
Mm-hmm. I owe our friends Brad and Dan a call because we need to stock the fridge with Yellow Dog and neighborhoods.
It's getting to that point where you can do nothing during the day and you have still built up a thirst to have a beverage at the end of the day. And with that in mind, I think it's time for you to go pick up a tall can 4-pack of the High Five Hazy IPA. After working in the driveway, round of golf, something that gets the blood moving just a little bit, Hazy's quench the thirst. It's on special for the month of April. Look for it on sale at private and government liquor stores.
Mitch on Twitter, oh God, monitoring EP40's off-season training is giving me flashbacks to the Grizzlies sending a trainer to Gans, Oklahoma to check in on Big Country.
Yeah, a little bit. I get that. You're right. There is something very similar there. Franchise player.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
More from Alvin in the IMAC piece. This on the head coach. And he acknowledges, and look, we had this discussion almost 2 weeks ago now, and particularly with Lawrence Gilman a week ago Wednesday, that bringing Tocchet back on an option is not a serious contemplation.
No.
I understand they leaked that to Elliott. I understand you may have an owner in Francesco Aquilini, a team president, Michael Doyle, a president of hockey operations, and Jim Rutherford, who are all a little bit frustrated, even GM Patrick Alvin, who are all a little bit frustrated that Tocchet wanted to put this on the back burner and not commit to them, and frustrated that the Philadelphia Flyers seem to be interested and that everybody is drawing that line straight across to Philly, where Tocchet was once a legendary player. But it was never a serious if you're a serious franchise, it was not a serious possibility, and Alvin has laid that to rest. He also said, quote, "My intention is to negotiate term with him and have a coach here that wants to be here." I wonder if that's a shot across the bow.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if they have found
Don't go exploring other options, Rick. If you're going to wind up being here.
Well, they may have found that it's been difficult in negotiations in just terms of getting answers, long delays, and they might be getting the gist that he doesn't want to be there.
That he thinks grass is greener somewhere else, whether that's Philadelphia, Chicago, and Boston are looking for head coaches as well. They have interims. I suspect there will be a few more once the season ends. A lot of talk about Peter Laviolette in New York. Some are looking at Nashville and Andrew Brunette. Had a miserable season. And there could be surprise ones too, right? So there are 3 jobs out there right now and more potentially to come. And as we discussed yesterday, back here at home, no more playoff chase. I suspect Tocchet will be asked the question again, most interested in the answer. I imagine he'll start with something like, hey, we still got 2 games, 3 games left to go here. Want to finish the season strong. That's important, blah, blah, blah. But I would like to think he would build on the answers that he has provided previously on this topic, which amounted to, I'm singularly focused on the season we're in a playoff push.
Yeah.
That's now gone. Water under the bridge. It's now time to be forward-looking.
He still has to coach these 3 games, but let's face it, the preparations are a hell of a lot different when every point matters. You want to teach guys new good habits and all that, but that's I think you can attend to that and take a call from your agent.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. And maintain enough focus.
Right.
Like, let's not pretend he can't walk and chew gum.
Yeah. Let's not pretend he can't take a call from the agent and the agent tells him, Rick, how do you feel about 3 years at $3 million? And he says, no, I want more than that. Okay, I'll counter. And it's pretty simple business.
And it behooves the Canucks, and to some lesser degree, Tocchet, but it behooves the Canucks to have some positivity on this front. It doesn't have to be signed, sealed, and delivered just yet. We've talked about spreading some goodwill here in the immediate aftermath of the season to try to erase people's memories that they've missed the playoffs. A signing of Pius Suter, perhaps, and a signing of Rick Tocchet would be pretty easy to do over the first few weeks after the season comes to an end. But they could even get a little mini version of that if there's a leak of positivity in this regard. The 2 sides are talking, but anything that they can sort of get out there that there's some progress in I think is in their benefit.
Yep, I would agree.
Season ticket renewals have been mailed out.
Yep. And we know, while he has some detractors that he gained this year by the way he coached the team, the market is still very much pro Rick Tocchet.
As our poll question yesterday
outlined.
And you know me, I am not it's Tocchet or nobody person. I think he's replaceable, but I think he's certainly good enough that it would be an item on the to-do list. If you don't bring him back, well, you got to go find a guy.
Yep.
And he's at the very least a good coach, if not a very good coach.
Canucks win 4-1 in Denver against the Colorado Avalanche. They sweep the final road trip of the year to finish 21-14-6 away from Rogers Arena this season. That's 48 points. That is more than good enough as a road record. In fact, Blake and I were talking, if they just replicated that at home, they would probably be in the playoffs this season. They also sweep the Colorado Avalanche this year, winning all 3 games against the Avs, outscoring them 10-2. And I realize Nathan MacKinnon wasn't on the ice last night, and that changes matters, but more just maddening stuff from the Canucks, right?
Canucks didn't have Elias Pettersson, so.
Well, yeah. A lot of people think that Colorado is a cup contender. You dusted them this year, and you lost 11 home games to non-playoff teams, 7 of them in regulation.
Good little story for them. Gabriel Landeskog is playing an AHL game today, so that might be another center to drop in there for them.
Elias Pettersson is the story. He beats up Logan O'Connor. He gets a welt on the forehead. He fixes the hair stylishly in the penalty box, and then he gets a huge ovation from his teammate, tap on the head from head coach Rick Tocchet after he serves his penalty and makes his way to the Canucks bench. Here's Tocchet on DPD scrap.
He handled himself very well. He's when a guy can do that every once in a while, people will keep their head up. So it's good. He's a big man, and he's 20 years old. So really impressed with that.
Popped O'Connor and then took a shot in the chin and said,
Oh
"Nope,
my gosh.
not having it."
Old school fight. You don't see a lot of those fights anymore, Blake.
But I loved. People like to talk about old school hockey. Chris Pronger would have cross-checked you in the back. Okay, we can't do that anymore. It's a penalty every single time. What you can do is what DPD did there is he popped the guy shoulder to shoulder, basically like, you're too close to my guy. You're not gonna be able to get a stick on the puck here. I'm gonna put you on your ass. And he did it shoulder to shoulder. from a standing still position.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how strong this kid is. He's listed 6'2", 185. But he's a bit of a beast. And he handled himself quite nicely in the fight as well. Maybe can work on his defense a little bit.
Dan Murphy of Sportsnet reports that was his first fight ever, like in any situation.
Ever?
I interpreted it as he hasn't even been in a schoolyard fight.
There was a little bit of that. He kept on going for the two-handed grab of the back. Like, just keep punching, man.
Kiefer Sherwood, he had the jokes. He liked the look of DP, reminded him of a former heavyweight champion. Here's Kiefer.
I'm looking for it for a little bit. We kind of talked about it last night a little bit, actually. I thought he looked like just Mike Tyson, just throwing them and taking them and throwing them more. So I'm sure he's going to have to brush up on some technique, but it was great. It was great. He plays a hard game, and it's probably the first of many just because he's going to get under guys' skin a lot with his physicality.
The Swedes are not notorious boxers. Name a famous Swedish boxer.
No. When I first heard that clip, he's been looking for it for a little bit. We kind of talked about it last night a little bit, actually. I was like, oh my God, like, is this guy actually, like, is he one of these few who enjoys fighting, like wants to go out?
Well, clearly not if he's ever had one, but
exactly.
I think he thought, if I'm going to play like I'm going to play at the NHL level,
as Sherwood described at the end there,
I should probably do this every once in a while.
Yeah. 9th Canuck to fight this year. They've had 11 fights total. 4 of the guys who have fought, Miller, Desharnais, Heinen, Brandstrom, no longer Canucks. And speaking of Kiefer Sherwood, another sensational game. Boy, he's owned the Avs this year. He had a hat trick against them. 2-point night. Great goal. His team leading 6th game-winning goal. A great setup on the DeBrusk goal. He's now 1 goal away from 20. He's up to 40 points. And as we know, he leads the NHL in hits. How many hits did he have last night?
None. I don't think he recorded a single hit.
No way.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that.
Yeah. 0.
But Sportsnet did show 2 of his hits during the game.
He's gotten soft.
Well, he also popped O'Connor to start the fight. Maybe the whistle had already gone, so they don't count it.
This from Adam Kirsenblatt of the Hockey News. Sherwood is one of 3 players in the NHL who has a cap hit of $1.5 million or less, isn't on an ELC, to record 40 points this season. The other 2, Simon Holmstrom on the of the New York Islanders, and the terrific defenseman Jackson Lacombe of the Anaheim Ducks. He remains one of the best free agent signings of last year, July 1st.
He's the first member of the 2400 Club. Mike Rogerson's joke. 20 goals, 400 hits. No one's ever done it in the history of the National Hockey
Except he's a goal shy of 20. He needs one more.
He's the first member of the 19400.
Got you.
Yeah. Still stands.
He's just charting new clubs with every goal.
He is, yeah.
Dakota Joshua with a goal and an assist on that line. Anatu Räty. Good again. The young Finn gets a point, an assist. He's +2. He wins 9 of 14 faceoffs. The high danger's 5-1 when he's on the ice, and his most common opponent, Kyle McCarr.
And the dangle through the legs, backward flick, that close to being plays of the week as well for Räty. Can you imagine if he had scored that? Like, I mean, no, he's saying, I'm a National Hockey Leaguer. Put me in pen on opening night.
And Rick Tocchet was talking about that line and Dakota Joshua in the aftermath.
The line was really good. I thought that line's been, since I put them together, they've played it. They've been really consistent the last bunch of games I played them together. Dakota's this is big for Dakota. I think if he can have some strong games down the stretch, give some confidence going into the summer, work on some things, and mentally for him too, to recharge himself again, because when he plays like that, he's a difference maker. A big guy that can hold on to pucks, that scores around the net. Those are hard to find. So he's a guy that when he does that, he's a really effective for us.
Yeah, and I like that from Tocchet. I mean, the season started on such a sour note for Dakota Joshua, the diagnosis of testicular cancer, having to miss first 6 weeks or so of the season. So ended on a strong note. Feel good going into your big summer. 7 goals, 7 assists now for Joshua, 14 points in 54 games. Of course, the Canucks will be expecting a whole lot more next year in the second year of that extension they signed him to last year. Kevin Lankinen, outstanding, making 31 saves. He gets his save percentage back up over 900, his 25th win of the season, now logging a 2.63 goals against average. And he needed that because he had struggled since the contract extension. He was winless in his previous 4 starts. But he was there to shut the door last night at just about every Canucks Colorado foray.
Yeah, to see him resurrect his season a little bit here in the last couple of games is big. A win and a loss in those 2 games, but he just looks like himself. And I think we have seen now the recipe that he can't have him on a 60 start pace.
No.
At any point in the season.
No. Even less than that. Like, honestly, the more I think about it, and this obviously will depend on performance, but I'm going into next season looking at a pretty equal distribution of goaltender starts.
And I think
given Demko's injury history and given what we've seen from Lankinen this year, and Tocchet has mentioned it several times, and that when he plays him too much, the level drops.
I think you have a discreet conversation with Thatcher Demko and say, listen, we need you to be healthy for playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go pretty close to 50-50.
Like 45-37, something like
that.
The
tie goes to the Demmer, so presuming that you are yourself and presuming Lankinen is himself, you're still going to get the call game 1 of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But just so you know, it's going to be a little lower pace than what you have been used to around here. And I don't think that Thatcher Demko has a leg to stand on to push back against that. Like
he does not.
I would hope that he understands.
He does not. And frankly, it's for his benefit. We can't have you expiring in the first game of the Stanley Cup playoffs again. We can't have you missing the final month of the season again. We're close to it. Jake DeBrusk scores his team-leading 26th goal of the season. Good debate on Canucks Army with J-Pat and Quadrelli and Harmon. Has he met expectations this year? 1 more goal, 27, means basically a goal every 3 games. He's 1 up on Boeser right now. He's 2 up on Suter for the team lead. But he has been most streaky. Has he met expectations this year, Blake?
He has. I mean, he has. Like we did these shows. We talked about where we'd like to see him score.
I think he's just short.
It's there. Now, what I'll say that has gone wanting is this: how he scored goals. Like I would have wanted a little. People talked about his shot. He's had a few.
Didn't see a ton of that.
We've had a lot of net front, and you don't want him to not score the net front presence goals and the tip ins and that sort of thing.
The ugly ones count just as much.
They do, but if your skill is shooting, shoot and score.
So for me, he falls just short for 2 reasons. Number 1, just the streakiness. With the way the Stanley Cup playoffs is structured, and I know he's been good there, but you can't afford to have a top 6 winger, a top line winger, a $7.5 million winger go long stretches without a goal. Like, that's just going to sewer you in a short series. You ain't got time to bleed. And then secondly, by Jake's own admission at the beginning of the year, he wanted 30. He's at 26. He'll probably fall short. If he's outstanding in the next 3 games and he gets to 30, then I'll say, yeah, he met expectations. But I think the consistency is something I would like to see next year from DeBrusk. It's not really something you can work on in the summer. But when he's quiet, he's awfully quiet.
But that to me is still evolution for the player. Yes, you got to a good total, but what we want you to do is to show up when we need you the most, and to be more consistent. We can't be left wondering when your next goal is at certain points in the season.
That's what I mean.
But I mean, you sign a guy whose career high is 27, and he comes in and I'm going to presume gets to 27 again. I don't know how you can say we didn't get what we paid for if you're Patrick Allvin. Now, it's not his career best pace. He had better paces in those 27 goals because one was done in a 64-game season, one was done in a 68-game season. So he's had better paces. But when you sign a free agent and guys dropped into a new system, the new coach, I don't think there's a ton of space to criticize at this point for Jake DeBrusk. But now, here's the thing. I don't think you can say this should be the norm. I think you can still watch him wrong and say he can be much better next year.
Don't get me wrong. He's still a part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yeah.
I just want him to be a bigger part of the solution.
And that's fair, and I think he can be.
Yeah.
Like, he's 28.
Filip Hronek gets an assist last night. That gives him a 4-game point streak. He's on a 47-point pace over 82 games, and of course, he's going to wind up missing 20 because of the injury earlier in the season. 21, as a matter of fact. But 5 goals, 28 assists, 33 points, playing 23-47 a night for Phil Hronek. And here's perhaps the best stat, because think way back to October, September. One of the things we were talking about is, okay, is it time for Filip Hronek to anchor his own pair? How much of his success last year was a function of playing with Quinn Hughes, the best defenseman in the world? And we know Quinn likes him there. We know the modern NHL defense pair. When you have a talent like Quinn Hughes, you want to supplement him with somebody who can play with the puck on the other side, not the big granite block, stone-handed defenseman, matching that little itty-bitty offensive guy with the big defensive guy. It's not ideal anymore. Well, he has played a fair bit on his own pair, anchoring his own pair, if you will.
Out of need.
Yeah.
Sometimes out of decision, but also out of need.
5-on-5 this year, even strength without Quinn Hughes. Canucks are outscoring opponents 22-15 with Phil Hronek there. So that's a good sign as well. As is Marcus Pettersson, an assist last night, 10 assists in his last 20 games, as JPAT notes. Not known as an offensive defenseman, but you look up and down these Canucks box scores of late, and what you'll see is healthy contributions from the defense core. Wasn't too long ago, even after Quinn Hughes got here, because there was nobody doing any kind of damage outside of Hughes, we would sit there night after night and go, oh, another night where the Canucks got nothing out of the defense score or nothing outside of Hughes. It was 3 points for the defense score last night. It was 6 in Dallas. You are getting a healthy contribution from your defenseman on the offensive side of the puck.
He is not an offensive defenseman, but he's not, to me, he's going to be, I think Tom Wielander falls in somewhere, like 30-point defensemen are not vacant offensively. He's got 28 this season, Marcus Pettersson. His career high is 30. He could very well set a career high in points this season if he has a decent little finish here to the season. So, I think today's modern defender, it's tough to have a 15-point defenseman. Heck, even Derek Forbort's contributing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you have to have some forward momentum,
right,
as a modern defender.
You got to be able to play with the puck a little.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to make a pass in the offensive zone that avails itself for a scoring opportunity.
And even Derek Forbort, who's not going to put up gaudy totals, look at some of the plays that he's made. Those are skill plays.
Yep.
So it's in the tackle box for when you absolutely need to bring it out.
Now, I know what all of you were saying.
You do?
My God, are the Vancouver Canucks good when it doesn't matter. We saw this throughout the Willie Desjardins era, Travis Green era.
We used to be up in arms about it.
Eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs. Watch out. Here come the Vancouver Canucks. They're getting on a heater.
I don't even care.
Hamalytics has done the math. Canucks record after being eliminated from playoff contention. This from the 2017-18 season. 16-9-5, 101 point pace. Want to know this here. It is a rite of spring, but it also, as we have discussed this week, that shows that these players are not quitting on Rick Tocchet and his coaching staff. And I think that's important.
And to me, as we've talked about, it's guilt-free this year. We are talking about the difference between a 12th or 13th pick or a 14th and 15th overall pick.
The best they could do is advance to 14th in the Utah.
Is that where we are now? Okay.
They're between 14 and 16, but it was always going to be.
Yeah.
There were very narrow pathways.
They would have had to lose their last 7
better
games.
Than 14th. Yeah. There is no pathway to a pick worse than 16th because that's the final team out of the playoffs.
I have a mild fascination with them winning out.
First team out of the playoffs.
I have a mild fascination with them winning out and tying one of the Blues or Wild. It doesn't get them to the playoffs any, but I still have a mild fascination in that participation ribbon of you got to a playoff total, even if you didn't get in.
That would mean Minnesota or St. Louis losing all their remaining games.
Right. In Minnesota, it's very possible. They got a desperate Flames tonight. Mm-hmm. The Canucks have got agency over them on Saturday night. So then you're only asking for one miracle result, basically, for the Wild to suffer.
Well, and the Canucks have San Jose Monday.
Yeah.
Aforementioned, tomorrow, Minnesota here at Rogers Arena, 3-game homestand to end the year. Canucks 16-15-7 at home. Gosh, they need to stay above NHL 500, huh? For the sake of the season ticket subscribers and the renewal notices that have gone out altogether, everyone.
Well, again, we've talked about it. Only Chicago and San Jose have fewer home wins in the Western Conference.
Yeah, like, please don't wind up 17-17-7 at home.
I said in the Western Conference. It's actually overall. It's overall.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, they're horrible. Horrible at home.
Oof.
So, yeah, if the Canucks win one of these next 3 games, they guarantee themselves at least NHL 500 at home. But goodness gracious, that is not much of an achievement now, is it? All 3 would get them to 19-15-7, which is a little more respectable, but still not where you want to be on home ice. Tom Wielander with an assist, and Boston University defeats Penn State. They are off to Saturday's national championship game at the Frozen Four in St. Louis, where they will face the upstart Western Michigan Broncos, who upset the University of Denver, the NCAA hockey powerhouse, in a long overtime game. Wielander and the Terriers got on the ice quite late last night because of multiple overtimes in the first semifinal. So, opportunity to lift a trophy, be a champion. Of course, Aiden Celebrini, Macklin's brother, Canucks prospect, draft pick, is on that team as well. They could both be NCAA champions by the end of the weekend. Games available on TSN. Looking forward to seeing what Tom Wielander does in what everyone suspects will be his final college game.
Yeah.
The anticipation is he will sign after this game and that he will join the Abbotsford Canucks for, well, to start, I would imagine, practices, and then ultimately in the Abbotsford Canucks playoff run. Abby at home this weekend to Calgary. It's their final homestand of the regular season. They finish with a trip to California next week, but they could also be the top team in the Pacific Division and get a first-round bye in the Calder Cup playoffs.
It's tonight and Saturday. Saturday's fan appreciation. I don't know about ticket availability, but it might be, if you're in the direction,
they haven't.
Go check it out.
They had attendance has been a little bit disappointing there this year.
But this streak, I think, has added some ferocity.
13 wins in a row here. So, I know listener Cindy is going out to the game tonight. So there you go. They're attracting people from the Lower Mainland because of how well they've played.
Yeah, and they deserve the shine. It's been a magical end to the season. If Wielander ends up there, good luck getting ice time. But hey, if they go on a bit of a run, we know attrition happens in AHL and NHL playoffs and injuries will occur. Guys will get bumps and bruises. I suspect he'll see some action. We'll see.
Shout out to the staff at Räty, Haley, who has taken such great care of us all season long at the Canucks Army viewing parties there. We had our final one yesterday. Thanks to those who attended. We raised some money for Kids Sport Vancouver, and thank you to them for participating on the evening. And thank you to Fountain Tire for presenting these watch parties viewing parties over the course of the season. Remind you that Räty is a fantastic spot to watch all the games, pregame, postgame. They are steps from the arena and the stadium, the fantastic street food menu, the cacophony of sound. The arcade surrounds the bar, and, occasionally you'll hear celebrations, squeals. It's just a marvelous place to spend an evening. 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. We're going to speak with J-Pat here on the game, but also pointing forward on Elias Pettersson, on Brock Boeser. Discussed Boeser's comments yesterday, and I would think, Blake, that Brock Boeser, we know he's a feeler. I would not be surprised if Brock Boeser is tributed in one of these final home games, particularly next week in the last one against Vegas. I would not be surprised if he's moved to tears with everything that Vancouver and Brock Boeser have been through together.
I think it's fair. Yeah, I mean, it's...
Elliot Friedman said today he thought Brock was heartbroken about the Canucks' lack of interest in bringing him back, or only bringing him back.
I can imagine.
Term, and some of the comments that Patrick Alvin made on trade deadline day. So Jeff's going to join us. Then Jesper Sorensen, the head coach, the maestro, the magic man of these 5-1-1 Vancouver Whitecaps. They're back at it tomorrow at BC Place against Austin. It's a 4:30 start. Looking to go to 6-1-1. And, of course, they're through to the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinals against Lionel Messi and Inter Miami in a couple of weeks. It has been an extraordinary debut for this head coach. He came over from Denmark. Yeah, he had some credentials, but we wondered, how is this going to go? New system for the players, new league for the head coach. Do they have the depth with all these injuries? 6 players out. It has been a sensational couple of months here for Vancouver Whitecaps FC, and it was great to get Jesper back on the show to talk about it.
Matt, the tickets just went on sale at noon on Friday for the semifinal game versus Miami, and I just logged on. They are sold out. There's verified resale tickets available on Ticketmaster. Yep. It is already sold out. But I'll say this.
That's lower bowl, or
so here's the detail. There's, the verified resale tickets are available, a smattering of those, but they are only in the lower bowl and one half of the upper bowl. So I think they've only tried to sell today the lower bowl and half of the upper.
Yeah.
So my guess
is
this before. They're gonna hold back for who knows how long, but I would say fairly soon they'll probably do a second sale here of the second half of the upper bowl
if the demand is there, and it very much
looks like it is.
The demand is there.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to today's Bet365 bets of the day. This segment proudly brought to you by Bet365. Mike Rogerson, who had Kiefer Sherwood as a plus 500 anytime goal scorer last night?
I believe he did.
My turn to brag.
Yeah. And I had 2 assists for Hughes, and that did not happen.
He's been doing so much bragging on his Safeway picks. Undefeated week and all. My turn. And look, I hate to doubt him. We just sang their praises. But as everybody has noted, my God, have the Caps played a lot of soccer.
And Austin's good. Yeah.
They're a quality opponent, not to mention the travel, too. Like Mexico City, that's not a short trip.
Nope.
So perhaps tomorrow against this quality Austin side, you pull the old Don Taylor. Austin plus 310 to win, or a draw at plus 250.
I don't mind the draw because you're right. You could just sort of engineer the draw if you're Jesper Sorensen. I'll go on the match as well, and I'll say Brian White, who, of course, came off the bench, didn't start versus Pumas in Mexico City. I would guess he gets the start, plus 175 for Mr. Inevitable to get a goal.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. J-Pat, coming up next. Harrison Price from the Historic Wall Center.
I do a lot of highway driving based on my kids' sports, and you know what I would give to drive in the Hov lane. And for those of you that are Valley Way, easiest way is behind the wheel in the sheer comfort and sportiness of a BZ4X from Toyota. It's the newest addition to their electric lineup, originating with the Prius. It's a Toyota. It has all the hallmarks, including the longevity of a Toyota, but it's in an electric car. Skip all the gas tanks for the rest of your life. How about that? Behind the wheel of a BZ4X. Up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives. 0.99% APR financing for 36 months. Shop Toyota.ca, but let it do the talking. Go to your nearest Pacific Toyota dealer and take one for a test drive today.
Jeff Paterson is our Canucks reporter. The host of RinkWide Vancouver will be busy again this weekend with the Canucks facing Minnesota tomorrow. And, of course, coming off a perfect road trip, or the itty-bitty road trip, but they sweep Dallas and Colorado to finish the road schedule on the year. Jeff, how are you?
I'm good. And I was happy for the people that made the trek to Greta last night. Look, low expectations, obviously, with a game that didn't mean anything. So I was there before the game and had a chance to chat with a few. And I know you guys were there through the hockey game. So hats off to Canuck fans that made the effort to get out to Greta one last time for a watch party.
And Jeff, hats off to this group of players. Missing who they're missing. We've talked about this all week. The effort and work rate on a night-to-night basis is commendable. And we've been talking about that's got to be a commentary on how they feel about this coaching staff, right? That they're still playing this hard for Rick Tocchet and company this late in the season when all is lost.
Yeah, Rick Tocchet said it a bunch this week that his message has been there are always eyes on you, and essentially basically saying whether it's in the Canuck organization, whether it's outside the Canucks organization, these guys that want to be everyday NHLers, the opportunity may not present itself here in Vancouver, but there are 31 other spots, and apparently there's going to be a few others joining the mix here when Gary Bettman gets his way. But, just there are reasons to play hard. And it seems that the players certainly have bought into that. And, we've said it's been a highly disappointing season. We get that. I think everybody understands that. But now as the fan base starts to turn its attention to, okay, what is this roster going to look like next year? Then, you want to see Räty rise up and continue to play well. Kiefer Sherwood's been an incredible story all season long. How can you not pull for this guy to get a 20th goal here before the end of the season? And the way he's going, it wouldn't surprise me if he exceeds 20 goals for the first time in his NHL career. Look, they committed to Kevin Lankinen. It's been a little bit of a rocky road the second half of the season, but guys, his next appearance is going to be his 50th of the season for the Vancouver Canucks. Think about that for a guy that joined the club on the eve of the preseason. And I was really happy for him because I thought he played well against Vegas on Sunday and didn't get a win, and that extended his individual losing streak to 4. And so he didn't want to go into the summer after all the work that he had done to earn the contract, on a personal losing streak. And so I thought he rose up the 2 saves that he made early in the third period when it was 2-1. And then Dakota Joshua scores at the other end and extends the lead. I thought Kevin Lankinen was really good. So I was happy for him in a mean-nothing game ultimately, but individually there are some stakes there. And I think for Lankinen, it was just nice to see him rise to the challenge and ultimately have the team in front of him play well enough to deliver a victory.
Just quickly, that's his last start of the season for you?
Oh, I don't think they're going to run Demko out 3 in a row. I would imagine they continue to alternate here. So, give Demko the Saturday night game and then the final game of the year, and you can slide Kevin Lankinen in there on Monday night against the San Jose Sharks.
We have to talk about Elias Pettersson quickly burrowing himself into the hearts of Vancouver Canucks fans. Jeff, what did you make about his fisticuffs and how he is ending the season?
Hey, led in Corsi and expected goals too.
Yeah, let's roll it back to Tuesday night in Dallas when he sits Mikko Rantanen down on his ass. Like, Mikko Rantanen is a big dude. I think they call him the Moose or the Bull or whatever his nickname. Like, he's a big guy, and DPD threw him around, and Rantanen didn't like it, came back, kind of gave him a shot. They got matching minor penalties. But right there, I thought, like, wow, all right. Like, this guy's not messing around. That's a star player, and he's not giving him the star treatment. And so we have seen that really from the moment he stepped in, and even last year when he came over and made his debut. Remember, I think Lecker-Mackey got a rough ride down in Abbotsford, and the first guy to come to his defense was DPD, who was still finding his way in North American hockey, but it kind of showed then that, look, this guy, he's up to the challenge, and he understands his role and his assignment, and we've said that. And, there have been a few speed wobbles along the way in terms of his play, and they have sheltered him in his minutes for the most part, but that's all part of developing a young player. But as far as coming up swinging, very little defense in that fight last night. Both of those guys were chucking. And look, he gave a couple, he took a couple, but what a scene when he comes out of the penalty box and, the camera's cut to the bench and the guys are all standing and the stick taps. And then, of course, Rick Tocchet makes his way down and the big pat on the shoulder and the helmet. That kind of stuff is going to endear himself to teammates. But more than that, as Rick Tocchet said post-game, a few more of those and other players around the league are going to understand that that's in his arsenal. He's not going to do it every game. He shouldn't be expected to do that every game. But if circumstances arrive, that was a rise. Totally organic. I have no issues with that. It wasn't a staged fight. It wasn't, late in the game where somebody was trying to exact revenge. It was organic. It came out of 2 guys battling in front of the net. He throws O'Connor to the ice. O'Connor comes up and away they go. So, it's understandable why people are on the DPD train, and so they should be. He's fun to watch. And again, it's remarkable to think this guy was a 3rd-round pick not that long ago, and here he is doing his thing and not looking out of place at all in the National Hockey League.
Mancini ended up getting to 50%, Corsi 4 as well on the game. Like, it's starting to come for the other big guy on Dean. He had that fabulous shoulder-to-shoulder check, coming back on the back check to thwart a chance as well. There's some development there happening, right? When you start to play every night, you see these young players really start to take off. Yeah, and I think with Mancini, DPD's curve has been pretty steady, and that's kind of the book on him is just, you know what you're getting, and he brings it just about every night. Mancini, I don't think we've seen the high end, obviously, yet. We've seen some shades of it, but we've also seen a few more miscues than maybe you'd like at the NHL level, but that's what's going to happen. You're going to get exposed from time to time against the best players in the National Hockey League, but I like the way that they've used them. I hope Tyler Myers is okay. Nobody seems to know exactly what's going on, but the one benefit of Myers not being available is that both these young guys have become every night players here for the last week or so, and we'll see if that continues with 3 games remaining on home ice. I think if Tyler Myers can play, he's going to get back in there certainly for the season finale, you would think. But again, we'll get updates on some of the injured players at Saturday's morning skate. Full team day off coming off the road here, so we just don't know. But look, the Canucks have said repeatedly, Mancini was a guy they wanted. He wasn't just a throw-in the JT Miller deal. Big, right shot, skates well. You can see the raw materials in place there. But, I think he still needs, obviously, some help in terms of his reads, defensive positioning, and,
He's not comfortable yet on the puck, Jeff. That'll come just with more touches, more handles, more experience. But
And he
Yeah, no,
seems
there's
like he's, my limited dealings with him, but the few times I've talked to him, like just a really engaging guy that you can tell wants to get better. And I think getting an opportunity, look, he's got a relationship with Adam Foote going back almost 10 years. Adam Foote was a skills coach working for Kurt Overhart and his agency way back when, and got his hands on a teenage Victor Mancini. So these two guys go back quite a ways. And I think, there's a relationship, there's a rapport already in place. And we've seen what Adam Foote's been able to do with others at that position here with the Vancouver Canucks. And so if this coaching staff remains, you will see, I think, more of that development one-on-one, Adam Foote and Victor Mancini.
If we can stay on defense for a second, Jeff, because how many years did we bemoan not getting any kind of offensive production from the defense corps before Quinn Hughes, and then everybody but Quinn Hughes? Hronek with points in 4 straight now. It's a 47-point pace if he plays 82 this year for Hronek. And I saw you noting that Marcus Paterson is a half-point per game guy over his last 20. Like, all of a sudden, Jeff, like, they've got a back end now that is really helping push the pace offensively and lead to some of these offensive outbursts.
Every third game, Derek Forward's getting a point, for God's sake.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Right. So as they pack their hockey bags, it seems like they're taking surfboards with them, and they're all riding this wave right now of this offensive bender, guys. I did the math last night. In the last 20 games, they've scored 25 more goals as a team than they did in the previous 20-game stretch. So they've been a goal plus better per game over the last 20. And it shows up in the statistics, right? Pia Suter has basically been a point-a-game guy over that run. Kiefer Sherwood's having this incredible stretch of hockey as well. Somebody's got to get them the puck. And earlier in the season, they were running out Noah Juleson and Vincent Desharnais. And remember when people were screaming from the mountaintops, you can't take Eric Brandstrom out of this lineup. Where's Eric Brandstrom these days? I ask you, where is Eric Brandstrom these days? I think he's in Buffalo's system. Didn't he get traded again after he got traded from? Anyways, it just goes to show that, the defense is better. They're spending less time in their own zone. We're seeing them score off the rush. And a lot of times, the rush starts deep in their own zone and away they go. And so the defensemen are collecting points. But Marcus Pettersson's not known as an offensive guy. I think there is enough in him as a well-rounded player that he can be productive. But when you've got Quinn Hughes ahead of you and you got Filip Hronek, you're not looking to Marcus Pettersson to light up the score sheet, but all of a sudden he's got 10 helpers in his last 20 games. And somebody came at me on social and said, oh, really? A point every other game? Like, we're calling that a success? There are 27 defensemen in the National Hockey League this season that have 40 points. Yes, a point every other game for a defenseman.
Yeah. When that's not your best defenseman.
When it's one per team.
And when that's not your best defenseman, that's unbelievable. So I wanted to get to this offensive explosion here because what's notable to me, and you went back 20 games, what's notable to me, Jeff, is the pace doesn't decrease 10 games ago when Elias Pettersson leaves the lineup. And I know that's a small sample size. It's 1/8 of the season.
9 games, averaging nearly 4 per game.
So, but does it inform their decision at all going forward about, with that trade clause kicking in, that our offense did not suck? And it's not to say you don't still need a 1C and a 2C. You do. But does it give you a little bit more leash, a little bit more wiggle room to say, maybe we could make a trade involving the play? I'm not advocating. I'm just exploring the space here, Jeff. Does it make you think, if we traded Paterson for somebody else, we're probably no worse at this point? Does that thought creep into your head at all, knowing the offense has gone up, or, relatively speaking, I guess it has gone up with him out of the lineup?
And I hear where you're coming from there. I guess I just don't know that there's a massive return if you're trading Elias Pettersson. I think somebody's doing you a solid and taking that contract off your hands. But in terms of getting a player of, somewhat equal caliber, I don't think that's happening. And so that's sort of two separate conversations then of, could you move him? You create more cap space. They've already got cap space. This isn't the summer necessarily, though, to, be the richest guy in the room and have all this money, because they're just, unless you're going to totally overpay on July 1st, and try and lure some of the top free agents, and maybe that is part of their game plan, who knows. But look, I think it's opened the eyes of some other players that when they've been given this opportunity to play a little higher in the lineup, that it's worked out for them. I'm still not buying Pius Suter as a 25-goal scorer every season moving forward. And so I do think that there's reasons to be a little bit cautious there. He has benefited from increased playing time. But if you get Elias Pettersson back and you also go out into the market and find another center, if Pius Suter's back into being a third-line center on this team, it's not going to happen for him to be a 25. So as good as he's been, taking the opportunity and making the most of it, I still am going to look at Pius Suter as sort of a 15 to 20 goal scorer as opposed to the 25 goal scorer that he's likely to finish this season. And as for Paterson, again, guys, some interesting comments from Patrick Allvin. We saw last year when he told Brock Boeser, yeah, good for you. You got 40, could have been 50. Telling Elias Pettersson that he sort of ought to spend his summer in Vancouver, and then says it's up to the player ultimately. We know that Elias Pettersson doesn't seem to react and respond to a lot of those types of things. And so I wonder if he would bristle at that suggestion that, it's been a long summer. He's got a lot of money. He's free to travel the world. They can't, tie him down to a chair at Rogers Arena here. But, there's nothing wrong with the suggestion that, look, all the infrastructure is here with the personnel, training staff, facilities, and all those types of things. Maybe it would be in his best interest. But I just wonder how Elias Pettersson would react to, the general manager basically telling him, like, don't stray far from town this summer. This is where you ought to be so that we can keep our eye on you and your training. I mean, does that not kind of come down to trust ultimately at the end of the day?
It does. And I think it speaks to Elias's previous summers. And I wondered, we talked about this in the first segment, is this kind of a test, Jeff? If he agrees, great. If he balks, okay, maybe you do explore the trade.
I would agree with that. These are all, they're all sort of steps along the way here. And we already know that it feels like there has been a disconnect between the head coach, certainly, and this player throughout the season and the different ways that they try to go about motivating him. Look, if he is back, he needs a big summer. We know that. I mean, that much is obvious. And I do hope that, as a young professional, that he recognizes that he can grow and he can learn from past summers and he can be better and he has to be better. So, whether it's under their thumb and under their watchful eye or whether, he does go far afield this summer, I don't care where it is, but he's got to put in the shifts in the summertime to be ready to hit the ground running if he's back as a member of the Vancouver Canucks.
The chance to see Tom Wielander seems to be squeaking away here. Do you think he's going to be a Vancouver Canuck or merely Abbotsford Canuck before the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 games remaining after Saturday, so there is still time, I suppose, if the plan is to burn off that first year of the ELC. It sounds like the organization is hoping that he would go to Abbotsford, and right now, I think we should all want to. I want to go to Abbotsford, what they've got going on there.
There's joy in Mudville over there.
Seriously, like the environment there, what Manny's got cooking, and the fact that they're poised to go on some sort of playoff run. It feels like the right atmosphere and environment for a young player. And again, with other guys in the organization that essentially he'll grow with. There will be others that come out of Abbotsford in years to come that, for him just to get to know the lay of the land and the surroundings. He's been to a prospects camp in the past here, so he would be familiar on the surface level with some of the young guys. But to me, and I understand sort of both sides of that equation of wanting to burn the first year of your ELC so you get to your second contract faster. But from the Canucks perspective, there is something to be said about slow and steady development there and, cost control. And so if he doesn't burn the first year, then you got all 3 years of his entry-level deal when he begins, in theory, in the NHL next season. So first things first, his attention has to be on a national championship. And what a great way to finish his college hockey career, if in fact that's the way it all plays out, and a really good opportunity for him it sounds like a special program there at BU, and here they are, one of 2 teams standing as they head to the championship game on Saturday afternoon.
Lastly, from me, Jeff, and we talked about this earlier in the week, but Quinn Hughes 2 points away, 3 to break Alex Edler's all-time record for career points by a defenseman. What else are you watching and monitoring here, be it statistically or otherwise, in the final 3 games?
Yeah, that's certainly at the top of the list. And with 3 games to go, I sure hope it happens at home. I mean, it's going to be a great accomplishment. We knew that it was inevitable. Still blown away by the fact that it's going to happen in roughly 500 fewer games than it took Alex Edler to get to the 409. So we'll see. I would like to have creep a little bit closer there in Colorado, but hey, he was held off the score sheet. He only played 24 minutes. They limited him against the Avs. How about that?
Scandal.
Yeah. There were a couple individual guys, right? Pius Suter, if he can get that next one to get to 25. Kiefer Sherwood, who got to 40 points last night, which is incredible, but at 19 goals, I would love to see him get one more to get to 20. Connor Garland's got the opportunity to get to 20. And I know that it's not a terrific derby, but Jake DeBrusk has nudged ahead of Brock Boeser again here for top spot in the goal scoring department for the Vancouver Canucks. So that's still very much up in the air, and Pius Suter's not out of the mix there with his 24 goals. So those are some of the things. And again, I want to see DPD. He's going to drop the gloves on home ice. I think fans would buy into that if it happens.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I think that welt on the forehead needs to heal. Let's let that thing heal first.
I lied. I had one more. I'm sure you saw Boeser's comments this week. Do you think there's any chance he's back, Jeff, or is this he's gone and the organization knows he's gone?
Look, Brock's handled this thing, I think, pretty damn well when you think of all the things and all the noise that have gone on around him this season. And if they wanted him here, they would have had a deal by now. And we understand sort of the negotiations of it. And through it all, Brock has basically said very little. And when he has, it's been pretty diplomatic. And so for him to really break his silence and basically say, I think I'm done here, I think that spoke volumes and basically sounded like a guy that has turned the page. And so he's going to want to finish up strong. But boy, talk about an emotional 3 games for him. Has only known the Vancouver Canucks, has given them an awful lot over the decade since he's been drafted here. And, really when you think about his season, at 25 goals, I don't think anybody truly expected that he was going to back up a 40-goal year with another 40-goal campaign. But the headshot by Tanner Jeannot kept him out of the lineup for 7 games, and then a little longer after that for him to get his feet back and his hands back. So 25, if you prorate it, would have been close to a 30-goal season, which is, I think, kind of right there in the wheelhouse for Brock Boeser. Yeah. So, it hasn't been a terrible season by any stretch. It has been for the organization. But if you just base his year on reality as opposed to the expectations coming off a 40-goal season, I think he's been pretty good. Didn't love the 12-game drought right out of the Four Nations break. And, that covered the trade deadline as well. Like at the deadline, he was in the low of his lows this year. And so I do wonder if that gave teams pause. They're looking for players that are going to plug into their lineup to help them in playoff run and down the stretch. And Brock was really fighting it for a 12-game run there out of the Four Nations break as he adjusted to life without JT Miller, said so himself. But yeah, I mean, without a doubt, that is going to be something to watch here for these final 3. I hope Rick Tocchet, puts him in the starting lineup so that Al Murdoch gets a chance to, introduce him as one of the starters for each of these 3 games and let the crowd react, because he's not a perfect player, but he's a pretty solid dude, without a doubt. I think we all know that about him. And if this is it for Brock Boeser, then he deserves to be saluted here over this final 3-game homestand.
But given the quietness in negotiations, their inaction at the deadline is even more perplexing. Like, it seems like they were resolute in not signing him from the get-go here. And then not trading him just makes even less sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Again, I think you have to remember that at the Four Nations break, they were actually closer to the Los Angeles Kings above them than they were to the Calgary Flames, who were the closest pursuer. And remember, all the talk at the Four Nations break was, it's going to be Vancouver or Calgary. We're going to get another Canadian team. It's going to be one of those. Of course, nobody was talking about the St. Louis Blues, and then the Blues have gone on the heater of all heaters and have locked down a playoff spot now. So looking like the Canucks and the Flames are both going to be on the outside looking in. But at the Four Nations, and that was a couple of weeks before the trade deadline, like there was still reason to think that even if it was scraping in as a wild card, making the playoffs was a possibility. And I guess ownership and management decided to take that path as opposed to peddling the pending unrestricted free agents. Pia Suter has responded and played well down the stretch and has certainly bumped up his own bottom line as he heads to free agency, whether it's here or elsewhere. And for Brock Boeser, again, I do think that his individual struggles right around the trade deadline, I do wonder if a few teams looked at that and thought, is he the guy? Even though he had a great playoff run last year and the track record is there.
Yeah.
But he was really fighting it at sort of the wrong time of the season. Whatever the case, got through the trade deadline. He's still a Vancouver Canuck and will be for 3 more games at the very least. I'm sure there are Brock fans out there that want him back and think that this is just all part of negotiation. But again, those comments, really the first time that he has addressed it head on, make me think that he's turned the page at the very least. And we'll see. It kind of feels, doesn't it? In some ways, it feels like a guy that's been evicted from his rental. Like, I think Brock wants to be in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
Basically the landlord has just said, nope, we're going to
feels like Survivor.
We're going to spruce up the unit spruce up the unit and rent it out to somebody else for next season. So stop the eviction if you're a Brock Boeser fan. But I think that ship may have sailed.
We'll be listening and watching RinkWide Vancouver tomorrow following the game against Minnesota. You're in here next week for a couple shifts with me, Jeff. Looking forward to that. And we'll catch up then.
All right, guys. So have a great weekend.
Caterson Price from the historic Wall Center.
Yeah, presentation of Bogey Juice. And yesterday we had our watch party. And Bogey Juice swag was being handed out. And that's the thing. If you go to bogeyjuice.com, yes, you can pick up the individual size servings of your favorite shot now. Apple, ginger, delicious top shelf vodka infused. But you can also get Bogey Juice swag. And the people were very happy with the hoodies and sweaters that they got at bogeyjuice.com. Go check it out. Use the code SP15. You get 15% off of your order at bogeyjuice.com. A new tradition on the links this spring and summer for you and your friends.
Young fellas said, what's Bogey Juice? Where can we get it? So I had to explain it to them. And they're like, yeah, that does make sense.
Yes.
Well, let's welcome in the head coach of Vancouver Whitecaps FC, Jesper Sorensen. They are 5-1-1 in league play, top of the table. They also have 3 victories in CONCACAF Champions Cup. They're off to the semifinals to face Inter Miami. Jesper Sorensen, what a debut here in Vancouver for you and your side.
Congrats.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm obviously pretty good.
How are you doing this, coach?
No, it's the players that's doing it. So that's the most important thing. Coming off a very tough game in Mexico, and obviously also got a little bit of luck there. So sometimes you do well, and sometimes you need a little bit of luck, and then you have to try and see if you can get it. And we got it down there. So the football gods were with us this time, also in Mexico.
Coach, when we talked to you before the season, you said it's going to take some time. It hasn't taken time. How surprised are you with how quickly your style of football and this new player group has been able to adapt and win all these games?
Yeah, that's also surprised me that we got, further ahead quicker than I thought we could. The players, they also have really chipped in and done everything. And then sometimes, as I just told you, when you come in as a new coach, you have new ideas. You want to introduce a lot of stuff. You have to implement them. Implementation normally takes some time. Everybody knows that when you seek changes, it takes some time to implement things. And then on the way, and especially in the way football works, then you also need something to make it go even faster. Sometimes that's victories and good experiences. We had a very bad loss in the very first game because we lost in the last minute down in Saprissa, which could have been bad. But then we went to Portland. They got a quick send off, and we had a very good game in the beginning of the MLS where we won 4-1 in a difficult away game. And then, stuff like that just, it just accelerates the feeling the players have, how they also believe in maybe doing some new stuff. So that's sometimes something that you just need to also to get a little bit of luck here and there, and then some good experience that can accelerate stuff and just accelerate the belief and the trust you have in each other and stuff like that. So but it's been exceeding my expectations, to be honest.
You said that early on you weren't going to fire everything, not all of the Sorensen playbook at them because it's just too much. Obviously, you got to give it to them in bits and bytes. I wonder, are they playing Sorensen football yet, or do you have to adjust even what that is? Because if it's working now, you always want to evolve to some degree and have new things to throw at other teams. But, how much change do you want to throw at them going forward, given how well it's working right now?
They are playing the way we would like to play. Of course, we hope that we can be even better at it, but they are playing, the style of play and the way we would like to play, and we would just like to be even better playing this kind of football. When you need if you want to do something, you don't want to do too many changes if you want to make it go a little bit fast at least. But then we started out with some things, and then we added some, and we will continue to add some, hopefully, along the way. So it's right now we're just happy with the way things are going, and but we also saw the other day that there are definitely things that we have to also work on and improve on because let's face it,
not perfect yet.
No. We were a little lucky down there, but okay.
I doubted you guys this week because of not because of skill, just you guys playing too much soccer. Like I thought it was just too much. I thought eventually with 6 guys out of the lineup, 6 guys that you could absolutely start, I thought it was just going to be too much gameplay. How did they dig deep at altitude? I mean, never mind everything else. At altitude, injured, thin bench. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is, and caps off to the players, right? Because they are the guys running around on the pitch and having to dig deep, coming up with the solutions, coming up with the belief that they could, after getting behind 2-0 in the end, still have the composure and still have the belief that we can do it anyways. So it's I'm just very happy with the players that they could do this. And I will also say some of the players that I did not expect to play this much, like a Tate Johnson, like Eddie Ocampo, 2 young players, really done amazing for us, and it also credits the rest of the group, to be honest, that we are also able to switch up players, switch up lineups, and everybody can embrace how it is to play together and each other on the pitch and believe and help up the teammates. So it's I can only credit the players, to be honest.
When do you expect to get Ryan Gauld back, Coach?
A couple of weeks. It's looking better now. He's running. I still can outrun him. That's not a good sign. But I think now at least we can see him on the pitch, and he's getting closer. But it is a little tricky situation with him because the injury is not one where you can just say this is the timeline we'll go by. But I expect him to be a couple of weeks away.
Adekube, Laborda, Utvik, are any of them a possibility for tomorrow against Austin?
Yeah, Björn will be a possibility for tomorrow. He will be in the squad. If he'll start, we have to figure out. We also have to see how players are coming in now. And then we have Sam. He will not be available for tomorrow's game, but he will pretty soon, I think, be available.
And then ultimately looking ahead to Miami, I mean, are you hopeful that 2 or 3 more on that list would be available in 2 weeks' time for that tie, for the first leg at home? Is that ambitious?
I'm always hopeful.
Yeah.
but Jaden would probably be one that we can hope for the first tie, right? And then we have Sam, and we have to see about Goldie. But it's also about not rushing Sam into something. To be honest, we want to play the strongest squad possible against Miami, but we also have to realize that first and foremost it's 2 games, and then we're still early in the season, right? And we also can expect Sam to be part and involved in the Canadian national teams, run in the Gold Cup, especially now with this guy from Munich out. So it will, sorry.
Yeah, we've heard of that guy from Munich. We've also heard of.
You cannot talk about him in Canadian football like that. Sorry. I'm just.
No, we got you, Coach. We've also heard of that guy from Miami.
Yeah, Argentina.
Have you ever laid eyes on him in the flesh? Have you ever coached against him or been in the same stadium as Lionel Messi?
Nope, I've not been. I've been watching a Barcelona game, but not coached against him. No, I played Barcelona once, but he was not there because he was to the under-20 World Cup. I think they won that year, Argentina and Holland. So, but no.
How exciting will it be for you, Jesper, to coach against a global legend?
When you signed up for this job, you probably didn't think, okay, now I do have to think about how I'm going to coach against Lionel Messi. Like this is pretty cool territory.
It's fantastic. Maybe that's also it's always a discussion, right? About this, who's the best player to play a game, but Messi is definitely up there. Maybe the best player to play the game ever, but. He has excited so many soccer fans for the past 20 years and done it in such a spectacular way that it's of course it's going to be a privilege, but also a coaching job to figure out how to not completely shut him down, but at least then limit him.
You know that Miami made a decision not to bring him up last time. How bold of a decision would that be if they decided to do that in a semifinal cup game? Like, is that even on the board? If you're a Miami coach, do you even consider that given the stakes of the game?
Nope.
Yeah.
No, he can always play a part,
Yeah.
Maybe you want him coming off the bench. The last 2 games we played in Mexico, we had Brian coming off the bench.
Right.
We thought he could give a push coming in. Also, that could also lift the team when you have a player. We also saw Messi coming in from the bench another day when he was back from injuries and he came in, he scored off the bench. So you would always have him in the mix. Maybe not start him in the first leg, but coming off the bench, that would definitely make sense. You would probably start him. This is a big game for everybody.
Well, and before that, you got a couple of big ones. Speaking of bringing excitement, your squad has certainly done that, Jesper. This has been marvelous football to watch. We wish you the best of luck tomorrow against Austin, 4:30 at BC Place, and then next week in St. Louis before the tie with Miami begins. Thank you for this, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Paterson Price from the historic Wall Center, where you turn game night into a game weekend. Book your stay here at the Wall. Enjoy an exclusive Paterson Price rate. Call 604-331-1000. Ask for us by name. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. Well, the Masters round 2 underway, depending on when you were listening this, but day 1. Boy, you were saying what an attractive leaderboard, huh?
Mm-hmm. Big
After
names.
the first day, you've got the Canadian Corey Connors, who's right there. You have this remarkable Justin Rose story, his 20th Masters. Wouldn't it be great if he got another major championship before entering his twilight? Hasn't particularly played great golf.
Not
played.
one requisite old guy, but two of them, longer and couples, both just, there has to be one old guy that has a good. There's two old guys.
Freddie holes out from the fairway yesterday. You have the live attack with Bryson DeChambeau and Tyrrell Hatton. Scotty Scheffler and Ludwig Oberg right there, two of the best players in the world. And then there is U.S. amateur champion and three-time All-American at Arizona State University, Jose Luis Ballester, who had a mishap on 13 yesterday, I'm sure, in the eyes of the Green Jackets. He tees off and, quote, well, I completely forgot that we had those restrooms to the left of the tee box.
We've all done it. We've all taken the leak in the forest on the golf course, and then you realize that 100 feet away was a restroom stop on the golf course. Only we're not on television.
And then I'm like, I really need to pee. I didn't really know where to go. And since JT, Justin Thomas, had an issue on the green, I'm like, I'm just going to sneak here in the river and probably people would not see me that much. And then they clapped for me. Probably one of the claps that I really got today that was real loud. So it was kind of funny. He was 4 over.
There's no sneaking.
He then said, it was not embarrassing at all for me. If I had to do it, I'd do it again. See, I think that is the comment that's going to get him on the wrong side of the Green Jackets. Wait a second. We don't like you peeing in the tributary to begin with.
Yes.
But saying you would do it again. Jose, Luis, you want to be one and done here at Augusta?
We needed a new golden bear.
Try the veal. That, I'm sure, proudly brought to you by the Whistler Golf Club, the Arnold Palmer designed. What would Arnie say about that?
Yes.
Spring preparation. I mean, we're talking about a guy who didn't like hats in clubhouses, let alone relieving oneself in the creek. Spring prep underway. Excited for opening day, May 9th. Now accepting online bookings for the entirety of the 2025 season. No need to wait. Get those times locked in. And if you do have a group of 12 or more and you're planning a 2025 visit, get those times on hold right now. The prime times always fill up fast. And tell them about your group. WhistlerGolf.com/groups and follow on social at Whistler Golf. Well, Major League Soccer, major meeting yesterday. Axel Schuster attending for the Whitecaps. They have decided to delay a decision on the change to a fall-spring schedule till 2027. This is something MLS is mused about to get in synchro with the rest of the global football schedule, which goes fall or even summer, right? Until spring. There are many logistical issues at play here in North America, including weather. You want to play a game in Montreal in January, what does that look like? And, of course, competition. Competing with the NFL. Soccer is the biggest game in the world in many other countries. It is not.
That's the biggest one for me, Matt. I think you can structure it where the season as it stands begins February 25th, and ends in early December. So you're already flirting with those months anyhow. I think you can get past and schedule smartly to get around the weather. I think that's fine, but you can't ignore the hockey, basketball, and the National Football League are competing directly against you for the heart of your schedule. Now, they would take off 5 weeks, probably in the middle around Christmas time on either side of Christmas, 2.5 weeks on either side. But it's still not enough. It's still way too much competition, and you're ignoring when people want to be outside, want to be around.
Well, that's it. That's the big one for me, Blake. Like, I love going to a Caps game on a sunny weekend afternoon, beer in my, it is a glorious experience.
Here's the one of
I love that when the rest of the sports schedule slows down, I can dedicate more time to following the Caps week in and week out.
The big motivation
especially those
for this,
Wednesday night games in the summer, which are also
the big motivation for this is synchronizing so that you're not being interrupted by international windows as much, because then all the leagues are in lockstep, and so that player movement is more in lockstep, where you sign a free agent in the summer who's just come off a season. He's exhausted. He needs another few weeks. Blah, 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 blah. Playing in the summer worked really well when MLS was clearly several tiers down, where you were only getting, you weren't getting world-class players coming from top leagues. And however they arrived. Mm-hmm. Now that they have climbed the ladder, and they're not going to climb into the top 5, but they're, now that they're in that next tier down, they do snag some of those players from the top leagues, and they want to get those players when they are in their cycle of fitness. And so those are the two main reasons, but I don't know that it's enough to counter the fact that from the business sense, you might be shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah. I would really dislike it if they moved to that schedule. Caps versus Austin tomorrow, 4:30 at BC Place. Austin can draw even on points with a victory. Now, I don't say atop the West because Minnesota and expansion San Diego could bypass the Caps this weekend if they get victories and Vancouver loses. Minnesota's in Toronto, so the rare time where Caps fans are going to root for TFC. San Diego playing Colorado. If the Caps secure a draw, they'll be no worse than tied for first place in the West after the weekend. Canada, the draw for the Gold Cup in June happened yesterday. Canadian men's national team will face Honduras, El Salvador, and Curacao in their pool, Pool B. And as Ben Steiner of the Northern Football Podcast notes, we pretty much have the schedule for Canada the rest of the year now. This is the build-up year, of course, to the 2026 World Cup in North America next year. So Canada versus Ukraine and Ireland in Toronto in early June, basically tune-ups for the Gold Cup. They'll have 3 to 6 Gold Cup matches if they make it all the way to the final later in June, with as many as 3 of them happening right here in Vancouver. And then September, they start their European tour. They're at Romania on September 5th. They're at Wales on September 9th. So in totality, is this enough of a yearly test for Jesse Marsh's side?
Yeah, it's actually as heavy a schedule as you could possibly imagine for this team, given, of course, they've just played 2 games in Nations League as well. No, this is great, and it's new. It's new opposition and decent opposition.
European opposition, 4 games against European sides. That's very important because, as we've learned, different areas of the globe play soccer style differently. Yeah. You've got to be able to adapt in a World Cup.
So, all that is fabulous. I hope there's grass down early next year so that we can see more of these European teams or Asian teams brought in to test this squad. It's going to be very interesting, and we'll see about the health of everybody for all these matches, but I'm excited.
The Vancouver Warriors can clinch a spot in the National Lacrosse League playoffs if they beat the Toronto Rock in Hamilton tonight on TSN. And yes, the Rock play in Hamilton. It would be the first playoff appearance for this franchise in 8 years since 2017. They, of course, are undefeated, have won 4 in a row since making the big trade for former league MVP goaltender Christian Del Bianco with Calgary. So good luck to the Warriors. They're becoming a talking point here in town, and rightfully so. We've been waiting. A great lacrosse community here. Been waiting years to see a competitive product from the Warriors. Here they go. A chance to clinch a spot in the playoffs tonight. They vaulted from below the playoff bar up to 5th place in the NLL standings. Very tight. A lot of chasers there. But get a win tonight, and you're in for the first time in 8 years.
Playoffs at Rogers Arena.
Playoffs at Rogers Arena. The Jays get umpired in Boston, according to skipper John Schneider, who had some comments after the 4-3 loss to the Sox. They're off to Baltimore for the weekend. The M's play host to Texas. C's lose on a 1-0 walk-off in Spokane, squandering some terrific pitching performances. Grant Rogers will go tonight after allowing no earned runs in his first start for Vancouver. And as you know, the Canadians are back at the Nat next week, Tuesday, April 15th. the home opener. And what better way to open the season than with a fireworks night at the Nat? They're home all week. That includes a Friday nooner. That is, of course, a 1 o'clock start on Saturday. They have the early starts on Saturday in the spring. They move to the evening starts on Saturday later in the summer. Family fun Sunday. 1 o'clock start as well. The kids get to run the bases post game. That's brought to you by White Spot. For tickets, call 604-872-5232 or check out CanadiansBaseball.com.
I just checked the Doppler radar.
Uh-huh.
Not a drop of rain expected.
It looks pretty good next week.
Week long.
Yeah, it looks
Go
pretty
get
good.
your tickets,
yeah, absolutely.
everybody.
It looks pretty good next week. And as soon as the sun comes out, there is no place Vancouverites would rather be than Nat Bailey Stadium. Surrey Mitsubishi poll question results from Thursday. We asked you who deserves most of the blame for this season. Management, coaches, players, or just one player, and the winner is
management or the players on whole. They love to blame management. I'll go management.
Management is correct. Percentage
45.
66.
Whoa, really?
Players got 23. Just one player got 9. Coaches just 2. Mike K, management, ownership. Many wanted to lump in ownership with management or say, why no ownership option? Fair enough. Probably should have had ownership / management. Anthony, management for putting that, quote, one player into a situation that caused the team issue, making teammates choose sides and not solving it sooner. Gord, everybody has some responsibility, but you're asking the most blame, the players. Their drama, their no-shows, their choke jobs. Clark, it's the players. Miller and Paterson, to be exact. And Rob says, EP116 took the bag and ran. Ooh, harsh. Errors and omissions.
Brought to you by Ben Moss. Proudly Canadian-owned and operated. A history dating back 100. You're supporting legacy companies here like Ben Moss. 5 locations in BC. So there's one near Abbotsford, Victoria, Chilliwack, Willowbrook, and Langley, Coquitlam Center. And it's all about customer satisfaction. It's an area of life that few of us can say, I know so much about. Jewelry, really? You do? Diamonds? You know a lot? You're on your own if you do. Lab-grown diamonds, mined diamonds with payment plans if you need to suit your need. For more information, check out benmoss.com. Ben Moss, shine bright.
2 E's and O's from yesterday on top of not having ownership on the poll. In fact, a bad week on the poll. 2 errors on the poll this week. We could have... We listened to you. We'll incorporate going forward. Patrick Johnson called Lionel Messi Lionel. I just can't abide.
You can't abide? Wow. Such a snob.
Man's name is Lionel. That's how he wants it pronounced.
Okay. All right.
I mean, if he wasn't the biggest sports star of the world over, I might have let it slide, but it's the biggest sports star of the world.
We forgot to mention, too, he's apparently going to sign in Major League Soccer for 1 more year at least, so maybe there's another chance he's come back to Vancouver.
And I said the Frozen 4 was on TSN Plus. That may well be accurate, but it was on my dial yesterday. I got it on TSN 4. That fantastic Western Michigan-Denver game that went multiple overtimes. Anything from the inbox? Anything to self-report?
Reported.
Wow, how about that? Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time and connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.